When people start learning backend development, one word they hear again and again is API. But most beginners don't actually understand what an API is and why it is so important. In this video, I will explain what an API is and how it works using simple real life examples. No complex terms, just clear understanding. Hi, I am Tawheed from Fresh Coding. I will explain programming concepts in a simple, flow-wise manner. Let's start. First, let's understand the problem APIs solve. Imagine you open a food delivery app. You search for restaurants, select food, and place an order. Have you ever wondered how this app gets restaurants data from the server? The mobile app cannot directly access the server's database, and it should not. This is where APIs come in. API stands for Application Programming Interface. But don't worry about the definition. Think of an API as a messenger between two applications. Let's understand this with a real life example. Imagine you go to a restaurant, you don't enter the kitchen directly. Instead, you give your order to the waiter. The waiter takes your order to the kitchen and brings the food back to you. In this example, you are the client, the kitchen is the server, and the waiter is the API. You never directly talk to the kitchen, you only talk to the API. This is exactly how the software system works. The front end or mobile app does not directly talk to the database. Instead, it talks to an API. So, what does an API do? An API accepts requests from the client, sends them to the server, and returns response back to the client. That's it. Now let's understand the API flow step by step. This is a very important. First, the user click a button like get all products. Second, the front end creates an API request. This request includes the API URL, the HTTP method like get or post, and sometimes the data. Third, the this request is sent to the server throughout the internet. Fourth, the API on the server receives the request. The API validates the request and checks permissions. Fifth, the API talks to the database and fetches or updates data. Sixth, the API prepares a response, usually this response in a JSON format. Finally, the API sends the response back to the front end. The front end reads the data and displays it to the user. Now let's understand this with a real life example. Imagine an API endpoint like /API /products. When the front end sends a GET request to this endpoint, the API understands that the client wants product data. The API fetches products from the database and sends them back as a response. One very important thing to understand in these APIs decide what data is allowed and what data is not. The client cannot access everything. This makes the system secure. Now let's talk about why APIs are so important. APIs separate front-end and back-end. This means front-end developers and back-end developers can work independently. APIs also make applications scalable. One API can serve a website, a mobile app, and even third-party services. APIs also improve security. The database is never exposed directly. Only APIs can access it. If you want to become a backend or full stack developer, APIs are not optional. They are the foundation of modern applications. Let's quickly summarize. An API is a bridge between the client and the server. The client sends a request to the API processes it, and API sends a response back. If this explanation helped you learn a lot, subscribe to my channel Fresh Coding. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.